Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about something that's maybe a bit more of a sensitive topic than I've talked about in some of these videos before, and it all stems from a question I was asked. So let me give you a little bit of background on where this video came from. Ultimately, I was having a chat with a friend, and this individual turned around to me at one point during this conversation and said, "Yeah, but sex makes you like happy, right? Because that's the core of relationships. It's all about propagation and sex and that kind of thing. Yeah, continuing the species." And I was like, well, yeah, I guess sex is a very core element to a lot of relationships. Obviously, not all, but most. In terms of romantic relationships, anyway. And so then they went, yeah. So if you're in a happy relationship, then surely that's just like more sex, and more sex makes you more happy, and so that's the way to a happier time of things, right? Just like more sex equals happy. And the only answer that I could give was kinda, because again, let's go back to the DVI model that I talked about before, where you've got your directiveness or dominance, you've got your variety, you've got your emotion and your immersion. And, these can be both big overarching things, but they can also, like each individually or collectively, again, apply to smaller activities, like even going on a little bit of an adventure out to the shops can include all of those things in equal measure to make it as much of an enriching kind of time to have with your partner as possible. And so, taking a look at it, you can, yes, apply all of those to sex, but also realize that you don't need sex in any of those things to actually have them hit their peak and be really good. And so this is where I feel like people get mixed up between quality and quantity. Now, it's a tough thing, because obviously in a world that has become very highly sexualized in a lot of places in media and stuff like that, there is a fair amount of just quantity out there. And so, at times people want to emulate that, or people feel that that is an ideal that they want to aspire to. And so, yeah, you might, through your kind of your headspace, through like your perspective, you might go, yes, more sex is always going to make me feel better. But here's the thing: if you're putting, excuse me, if you're putting yourself under pressure to increase the quantity, then chances are you're going to sacrifice the quality, and then those four things in the DVI model may very well suffer as a result of it. And so as a result, you need to be careful with what you're saying here, because more sex can make you happier, certainly. I mean, especially when you're in a long distance relationship, as I am with Hannah, or if you're in another relationship the otherwise is maybe more distant in some way, even if it's just like you're both working at different times and stuff like that, then yeah, the lack of physical intimacy can actually be a real drain. So then suddenly being able to indulge in just all of these pent up emotions and all these pent up feelings that you've had for a while that you just want to let out, then that can make you happier, and that can be high quality and high quantity all in one go, just because there's been a kind of build up, if you like, over time. But obviously, then the other things that come out of this are, if that doesn't necessarily, if an increase in quantity doesn't always like help you out, then what is it about the quality that you can affect? Because surely the quality is just an in the moment thing, right? And this is where it kind of comes into a few different things. And again, if we're looking back at the DVI kind of model here to help us along, then we can maybe see a few things that we can do. Like, for instance, let's take a look at D to begin with. You've either got directiveness or dominance sat in there. And so as a result, people are thinking that especially people who have the very Hollywood or kind of fairy tale romance kind of view of sex, then a lot of them feel that it just happens. And yeah, sometimes it does. It can be incredibly spontaneous. It can be great fun. It can be, getting very hot and heavy and then just progressing and whatever else. But the thing is, a lot of the time, you also need to make provision for it. You actually need to make time for it. You need to make sure that you're both aware of that's where this is going, so that you can be happy with it. So I'm not necessarily having some kind of saying that you need to schedule it in some kind of really artificial way that's like calendar day, right? This evening this is what we're doing, and then tomorrow night we've got drinks with people, and then Friday night we've got game night, and then whatever else. I'm not saying that it just needs to become part of your general routine, because that's again how you kind of lose you lose the variety, and kind of maybe lose some of the immersion as well, as you just kind of take yourself out of the moment because you're just going through the motions. But it's like, if you want to try something out, if you want to do something, if you've not seen each other for a while and you just want to make a point of it, then instead of just going, right, that night I'm scheduling it for sex, all the time, all night, yeah. Instead of doing that, have a date night. And be open to the possibility that the night might end with some heavy petting and some physical intimacy. Have a look at maybe making some more time. Yeah, that's all that needs to be, and actually setting the time aside and being kind of not necessarily strict with yourself, but kind of concrete. If you're saying that night we're going to do something nice, and as a result it might lead to something else, that's fine. Yeah, then that's maybe what you should be looking at, instead of going, right, we're not going to care about this at all, and we're just going to wait for it to spontaneously happen, because it probably won't. Not all the time anyway, when you might want it to. Or looking at scheduling it with like literally ringing days on a calendar, like at regular intervals. That probably also doesn't work too well. But then also, you need to look at kind of how the actual how you're going through the motions, as it were. Because again, keeping in mind the kind of immersion and the kind of emotional side of things, you want to make sure that it's a case of not just everything happening in the bedroom or wherever it is that you end up having sex. You need to make sure that there's some actual intimacy, that there's some caring, that there's some genuine interest and engagement with the other person here. And so, again, if you're going for a date night or something like that, actually, even if it's not a date night, but it's just a night where the two of you are like, tonight's just going to be for us, yeah, then actually taking a look at talking about your day, how it's been, sharing feelings, actually just sitting down and having a cuddle before you go on to do anything else. Just things that bring you close together. Maybe even things that you wouldn't do regularly that bring you close together, to throw in that variety element in there. Actually sitting down and engaging with your partner because you care about your partner, not just because you care about their body and their genitals. It's there's more to it than that. And obviously relaxation is a big part of this as well, for the immersive kind of angle, in which case, giving each other massages, going and having a shower, either separately or together, whatever else, actually taking the time to just relax and de-stress and be happy with the fact that you're there with someone that you care about, and as a result that will play into the sex thing, and the sex will be higher quality, and the quality will then feed into your general feeling of appreciation, both for your relationship, but also just make you happier. And it's been proven time and time again in studies from the University of Texas, or from Princeton University, or from all manner of other places that have done studies into this, and they found that if you're producing this kind of increased frequency of quality interaction that often leads to sex, when you've got that kind of closeness, that intimacy that's becoming more prominent, more high quality, and just kind of becoming more of a rolling thing, then the sex will follow through, because you want that further intimacy to continue and increase with the increased quality and just the general relationship as a whole anyway. But obviously, some of the stuff that kind of comes out of it is, you need to avoid just the porn angle of just going in and going for the sex and then going home and thinking that'll make it better, and like, you need to make sure that there's that consideration element there for both the variety and the emotional and immersion kind of parts. In regards to this, the kind of D part of the DVI model kind of takes a back seat, because it can be, dominance and submissiveness can be part of this, but also it doesn't have to be, because the directiveness is more the door that opens to kind of allowing you the time and allowing you the presence with that other person to then go and invest in the rest of these things. And so, actually taking turns with your partner in regards to who's doing what, again, from the very beginning of like giving each other cuddles and massages and sorting out who's organising date night and whatever else, it gives you the variety because you're not always doing the same thing, you're not always taking on the same role. It gives you the emotional aspect because you're getting invested, an emotional investment in this thing with this other person. And immersion, it lets you actually enjoy the moment with that other person, because either you have done a thing with them or they have done a thing with you, and even if it isn't always like, there will be date nights that or in things that you go and do that will be negative or will not necessarily be as enjoyable, but it kind of sinks in and it's still a new story, a new memory that you've developed with that new person that then can still lead on to greater both physical interaction and intimacy, but also other forms of kind of growth within the relationship. And so again, this is the way that it works, and obviously you need to, one of the two big things as well that just get repeated ad infinitum, that don't really relate to DVEI so much at all, but are just like, good communication will help this no end, because actually having conversations about this and kind of discussing and helping each other through knowing what the other person wants and how you want to interact, that will only ever help these things, especially kind of with this other stuff, because if you're trying to communicate and you're communicating well, then having that directive element of going, tonight we're going to do a thing, it's just going to be us. If you're not communicating, you're not going to be able to say that, you're not going to be able to put the time aside, you're not going to be able to make it all work. So the communication element is good there, as well as obviously it's good during sex, because it helps you like define whether or not you're doing, your partner is doing what you want them to you, and vice versa, and it allows for a better, again, higher quality interaction just by giving each other pointers and communicating effectively. And I'm not necessarily talking about just making huge amounts of noise if you're a quiet person, but just nudging them in the right direction if they're not quite where you want them, or letting yourself be nudged if like you're not if they want you somewhere slightly different. It's all that kind of thing. And then the last thing is, don't just immediately jump out of bed. Once it's done, again, don't take the porn angle on it where it's like, wham bam, thank you ma'am, and, off goes the pizza guy. Actually, like, hold each other, allow for that physical connection, because again, that's the time when you've got all of these neurochemicals flooding your body, you've got all of these, it's the culmination of the build-up that you've put to one side, the actual sex that you've just had, and then you've got this moment where you can just relax. It's that whole tension and release thing. It's the big expectations and the small expectations, and it's the whole of the DVEI thing and everything else. Don't just jump out of bed or just leave or whatever else. Actually just appreciate that for the moment, let it sink in, let it relax, because again, that will be a higher quality ending to the entire thing, because it will again also then generate greater bonds on a neurological level, on a psychological level, on all of these things. And again, so you can continue to build and roll that big kind of snowball like kind of element of your relationship, whereby you're using DVEI, you're using communication, you're engaging with the other person in a really meaningful way, even if it's small ways, they're meaningful, and so you can get so much more out of it come the other end. But let me know what you guys think. Are there any other things that you would maybe add to what I'm saying here? Let me know, because it's always interesting to hear how much this maybe applies to people, whether or not they've ever even experienced this. It's interesting. And so as a result, though, thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this talk entertaining or interesting, then please drop us a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.